Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video I'm going to teach you how to play Italian opening in the most aggressive way. You know that Italian game is the most popular opening in chess, and there is plenty of ways how to play this opening. So we're going to start with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and after the move bishop c4, to achieve our setup it requires from white to respond with the move bishop c5. Of course, we are going to take a look at the move knight f6, but bishop c5 is one of the main moves. And then we are going for the move c3, intending to go with the move d4 and break the center. After knight f6, d4, takes. This is the most played position in chess. After check here, now there is three ways how you can cover your king. You can go knight c3, you can go knight bd2, you can also go bishop d2. In this video we are going to talk about the knight bd2, and I think this is one of the most challenging way for black how to handle this position. There is two moves how black can play here now. He can play the move d5, which we're gonna take a look later, and they can take on e4. So what I propose after knight takes e4 is to go immediately the move d5. That's the whole point. Because now you're provoking your opponent to play with a knight on c6. And there is a good thing, because many players, generally many people that are not aware of this option, will go the move knight f5, which is immediately getting out of the game. Then we just retreat the bishop back on d3, and if they take everything on d2, which can also happen in the other line, then this knight on a5 suddenly becomes very weird piece. They need to play b6, waste the time later to retreat the knight, which will cost king in the center from some checks and very decent attack. So that's why it's much better for them to immediately go knight e7 here, where we are going to castle, and after they take, we take back with our bishop, they take back with their bishop. Now we have this very nice move intermezzo d6, and the point of this move is when they capture here. Now I think we capture back with a knight. We can also capture back with a queen, but with a knight is even better, because now we would like to go knight e4 and knight e6, which immediately makes ton of pressure and also threat on f7. Like if they go castles, we play knight e4. They have to play the move d5, otherwise if they don't play d5, then we are going to take this pawn on d6 with our knight. And then by including the rooks later in the middle, they will definitely feel the pressure, not just on f7, also on b7, on all lines, and white will have decent attacking chances. This is not the best part of this opening, because many players will take here on d2, then we just take back, they trade everything, and then now they play the move knight e6. In this case, our idea is not to push d6, like we are going to avoid that move playing. We are going to push h4. As the best move here. The point of this move is we would like to bring the pawn all the way to h6 and create a dark square weaknesses. We have a huge compensation for this pawn sacrifice, because our development is almost finished after we castle long. So now black has two options. They can go castles immediately, which is not the best one, and they can also go d6. What happens if they don't play d6, if they go castles? In that case, we push h5, provoke h6, and then we now immediately goes the move g4. This move actually gives a lot of advantage, because we're about to push g5. And now d6 happens, trying to open up this bishop and strikes on g4, but then we include the rook g1. So our next threat is pretty much to push g5 and open up the g line, where the king on g8 will immediately feel some pressure. They need to create some counterplay, obviously c6 and now g5. H takes, rook takes, and suddenly the threats of h6, castles, and the other rook on g1 appears on the board, where for black is actually really hard to handle this position. After taking on d5, of course we are not trading pieces, we are keeping pieces on the board. And yeah, definitely black is having some hard time controlling this position, because his pieces are absolutely not ready for this attack. According to the engines, if black plays perfect, the position should look like something like this: f6, rook g1, rook f7, alongside castles, bishop g4. This bishop is, by the way, not hanging, because if you take this bishop, there is the move queen to c8, and now they're gonna win the bishop back. But as you see, they need to provide all of these only moves. Now queen f4, which is very logical by our side, f5, king b1, knight c6, knight g5, and definitely this position is nightmare for black. Like, look at all these weaknesses and open king. I see some idea of bishop c2, bishop b3, and then putting the pressure on this pawn. I think that's a very interesting one. And yeah, white is much better. Obviously, they will not handle this position at all. Like, I'm imagining that after g4 and rook g1 here, black will play something really stupid here, like maybe something like f6, which immediately allows you to go castle and then now start focusing on all these light squares in the position. Also, there is an option to go bishop d3 back and then just line up with your queen and bishop on this diagonal, which gives definitely decent advantage. So when we go back to the move h4, any sort of h5, just to tell you, is nonsense move. Like, they should not open up the king side at all. They should not push any single pawn if they don't need. So this pawn is just allowing you, I mean, you're gonna castle, they're gonna castle, I would say. And now even some g4 I can say that works. Maybe knight g5, just putting the knight here immediately. Seek for some ideas of this, or you want to go queen e2 and then take the pawn on h5 and so on. This position is definitely not good for our opponent. Also, I think d6 is just immediately gaining a lot of advantage, because now knight g5, and then, as you see here, there's a lot of problems. So yeah, d6 is maybe the most convenient move. Now the point is h5, so we are still not castling, we are not in rush for castles. h6 is something that they should play, otherwise if they castles here after h6 and g6, simply here we have a lot of moves like queen c3, then f6, and now alongside castles. White is already better because they can't move this pawn, they have a hole on e6. We're going to bring this rook to the e1, some knight g5 since they can't take because of checkmate. Then our knight will be planted here, and yeah, we are just much better in this position also. So they need to respond with a move h6, and then only now we make alongside castles. When they castle themselves, now we are bringing this rook from d to g1, which increases the pressure with a move g4. So at this point, there is the game that I actually saw this variation. It's from the game Caruana and Nakamura. Hikaru Nakamura played the move b5 here, which is definitely possible, where Caruana responded with the move bishop to b3. And there is an immediately option to play bishop g4, where we are playing the move rook to h4. And after queen to d7, or there is option also bishop takes f3, but after queen d7, which looks very logical, here we can play two moves. There is the move queen f4, and there is the move queen d4. Queen f4 leads to bishop f5, g4, bishop h7, and after g5 there is queen to f5. Where after making a lot of trades, this endgame is possible, but let's say we don't want to trade the queens. So I would recommend you to go to move queen to d4 and then threaten the bishop, as you see. If they go now bishop to f5, we have g4, bishop h7, and g5. Now the point is that when they play the move queen to f5, we don't need to move anything, so we can play bishop e3, which is an amazing move. Even though queen b1 looks like, oh, they're getting something from this, but after king e2 we are completely safe. Line goes knight f5, queen c3, knight h4, and rook takes b1. We are just simply winning the queen because queen is trapped. If they want to bring the queen back to f5, this is immediately losing because we just take here, and now there is a threat of checkmate 2 times, so they cannot even go g6 because queen takes queen g7 is checkmate. So in that case, this is very logical way if they play bishop f5, but f5 is the best move here, and in that case we have the move knight h2, where we are threatening again this bishop on f5, b5, bishop b3. Usually we go on b3 because we also want to keep the track on on d5 square. Bishop e2 is the move here, and now we just play bishop c2. And okay, our next moves are something like g4, trying to open up these diagonals, as you see for our rooks. This rook should come to the game maybe to f4. And yeah, we are just much better in terms of practice. Black is having some hard time handling this position. According to engines, this is very equal, but you see how many moves Black needs to find to survive this pressure. I can say that, for example, I used to play this line against my friend too much, and I was maybe beating him out of 7-8 games every single game once he learned the line, this specific line, until the end of variation or until some playable position. And when you surprise your opponent here, I think he will collapse completely. And what happens after rook h4 if they take on f3? I think this is maybe the easiest position to play, because now you're threatening on h6. So after queen d7, taking on h6 apparently now loses because there is knight g6. You need to be careful. Now you're losing the exchange. Like when you move your queen, there is knight takes h4, and if you move the rook, there is g takes h6. So you cannot play queen h6 immediately. You need to play a rook from h to g4, and after knight f5, bishop d3. And now this is bad position for Black. After king h8, you're going to simply take here, they take back, and now you're going to take on g7 with threat of checkmate on h6, for example. Or for example, after king to f8, I think you can also just play something like queen f4, or wait, what's the move here? Something with queen, with rook. Oh, actually, sorry, rook takes g7 is just winning, because after knight takes g7 there is queen h6, and after this it's just mate. Sorry, my bad. So yeah, this is just over after king h8. And yeah, they're in trouble here. I think I won one of my games this way. So yeah, bishop takes f3 is usually bad. In Hikaru's game against Caruana, in the b5 inclusion, bishop b3. Yeah, Hikaru played bishop g4. Then Caruana opted for knight h4, and after c5 he just ignores this and play f3, bishop takes h5, g4, bishop g6, and knight f5. So I remember that he blitzed out all of this, and now Hikaru managed to run into some time scramble also, and at already this point it was really hard from him to create any sort of defense. He tried, but you see that like Caruana just did amazing job in exploring these tactics and make the king walk for him on the other side. And anyway, this position is just hopeless for Black. The king is just in center, and now suddenly some checkmates are going to appear in the game. So as you see here, this position is totally playable, very easy to play. So that's all about knight takes e4. When they go d5, this is a little bit different variation because it's going into isolated pawn structures. So at this variation, we need to take on d5, knight takes d5, and then castles. That's very important move order. Now they will castle, and now I like to include the move a3 just to kick this bishop out of the way. And after bishop e7 to play the move rook e1. So after rook e1, this is also a very flexible move. We are not playing anything with knight. We are not playing still anything with the b pawn. Not thinking about, putting the knight anywhere. We're just waiting for our opponent to see what they're gonna do. Many players will play here the move bishop g4 as the most logical response, where we simply apply h3, and after bishop h5, which is definitely one of the most natural moves here, the point is bishop a2. And now what you want in this isolated structure, you would like to bring your knights and control e5 together and eventually go g4, which will happen in the next moves because bishop f6 is one of the most played moves here. And after g4, bishop g6 and knight c4, we are simply on our way to put one of our knights on e5. After something like knight b6, knight c5. And then it's not just activating this bishop, it's also creating a lot of threats because they have very, very sensitive kingside, while these knights are not doing that much in the game. And now after taking on e5, we take back with a knight, because we also wanna, apply still the pressure here and provoke our opponent to take, where after we just take back with the pawn, and if they decide to enter the endgame, this endgame is much more convenient for us, because after something like bishop e3, rook c1, they definitely have more weaknesses in structure, and we have bishop pair, which is more convenient, of course. So at this point, after c6, which I think it's a very logical move, we play something like bishop f4. After knight e5, we just put our bishop back. Something like rook e8, f4, we are gaining more space. Yeah, seems like we are opening up too much our king, but we are threatening actually to close and make this bishop bad here on g6. They can try to move the pawn or something, but that instantly loses the bishop on g6. I guess we don't even need to take this bishop, because this bishop is anyway permanently closed. And now after closing this bishop and gaining even more space on the king side, most probably our next moves are such a queen f3 together with queen f1, and later on maybe we can even think about capturing here on d5, creating them sensitive pawn on d5, and this bishop will be permanently closed on f7 until some endgame. So if they try something like queen b6, trying to hit the pawn on b2, which looks very dangerous, king h1 is a very smart move, because they cannot take now. We have f5, and that's trapping the bishop. So our king is completely safe here. There is nothing to worry about, and that's how we can win the piece. You can play also this line a little bit less intense, but I think this is the best possible way. If they go bishop g4, sometimes, position speak itself that you need to accept these aggressive positions and aggressive moments. If they go for something more solid, such a bishop to e6, then you can gain more space on the queen side with b4. If they offer the trade, of course, you're gonna kick this knight away first. After knight h3, king g2, knight takes d4, takes. We got some position here where we made some trades, and entering this endgame is totally fine for us. By the way, this you can find in the course about Italian game. I'm gonna put PGN link down below so you can take a look. If you want everything in one place, this variation and the previous variation, you can take a look and grab this PGN that I'm gonna put down there. So basically this line after rook e1, they also have some options of playing maybe like bishop f5, but then you can just jump with your knight on e4, and later on this knight can also sometimes go on c5 after pushing b4, bishop b2, or you can even go on g3. Like this position is very, very playable, like bishop to g4, then you go b4, and maybe you think that pawn on d4 is hanging. It is hanging, but then you have a lot of compensations, because suddenly your bishops becomes so strong, and you have a lot of compensations for that, of course. You can see here that we are threatening to take on f6 now with development of bishop on b2, where these bishops are just showing the masterpiece and super, super dangerous kingside attack. Okay, and the last variation that I would like to show you is very quiet variation if they go with a move knight f6 here. So at this point, you can go for the fried lever, obviously, but depends on which level you're playing that. If you are some level very low, around 1000 until 1500 on chess.com, then maybe you should opt for fried lever, because many players are not, finding it, comfortable as black. You can try fried lever, but if you're somewhere above that level, like let's say 2000 level, all formats, then I'm recommending you to go for the variation of d4, where you are kind of transposing into the Scotch Gambit. So here, after move e5, our opponent has a couple of moves to play, d5 and knight to e4. Definitely d5 is one of the most popular moves, where we respond with a move bishop to b5, pinning the knight, and after knight e4, which is the most natural move to respond with, knight takes d4, bishop d7, we need to capture on c6, and now we go castles. So at this point here, what is our task? We would like to play f3, kick the knight, then f4, and then bring the bishop to e3, followed by knight e2 or knight c3, and then creating this beautiful center on the dark squares. So the plan is very simple. Bishop c5 is one of the most played moves here, and after f3, kicking the knight out of the way, we are trying to get a tempo achieving the move f4, because playing f4 immediately doesn't give us that much, boost over the position if we start firstly with f3 and then gain this tempo. Of course, they're gonna come back with a knight, and now at this point we can just play the move bishop to e3. So what is our next idea? Like at some point we would like to go with a knight e2, challenge this knight, and if they don't take it, maybe we can plan the knight on f3. For example, after castles, knight e2 and f6, we just take in the middle, they take back, and now we can simply play the move queen e2. So this pawn on e5 eventually becomes a really dangerous pawn, because we're also threatening something together with queen c4, and king is also exposed. Their pawn structure is not so much well, and our rook is getting ready for the middle game. So this position is very nice for us. In case of something like bishop b6, trying to protect this bishop, then knight c3, developing the knight there. Okay, maybe you cannot make definitely a difference between the knight. Is it better on d2 or c3? But usually, if they do not defend this bishop, it's better to get knight on d2, because on c3 you can double up your pawns, and after taking it, it's not so much convenient to have double pawns. It's protecting your knight, but your knight doesn't need more protection. You have queen, you have bishop, so there is no danger on the knight on d4. Knight c3, challenging move. So after take and castles, a4 threatening to do something against this bishop. After closing it with a5, rook e1, trying to protect this bishop before moving this knight, and one of next moves are maybe something like queen d2 with queen f2, followed by some rook d1 most probably. We got a game here, Chigaev Maxim against Van Forest Jordan. Bishop f2 played, f6 and queen d2, where white had a very equal game, but there is also a move bishop h4 that white missed in this game, where he actually got a lot of advantage. The point is simply pawn on f6 is hanging, and you cannot really do anything about that pawn, and I'm going to open up your king. So if you do some move, like I don't know, let's place a move here for black. Let's move the queen out of the way. Like, you cannot even move the queen because I'm going to take your pawn. Like, if you play g5, then I will just bring my bishop back, and now you open up your king, which is definitely not good. Like, your king is more open, not convenient. I'll put my pieces on this diagonal, like I'll do something there, and you'll definitely feel a danger on your king side. So for black, it's really easy to make mistake, while you don't have to worry about anything on this diagonal. Everything is smoothly protected and you're totally fine. And also, to not talk about that, you have ideas of f5, f6, like followed by some, queen h5, queen f3 with rook e1, where you have a very pleasant game. And yeah, that's all about this Italian opening. As I mentioned, you can check out the link in the description where you can find a full PGN course about this Italian opening. I hope you like it. I never made this Italian opening topic on my channel. I like to play this opening very much, and I'm really recommending you if you are club level or even above, because this opening repertoire and these interesting variations can surprise even some very strong opponents, even grandmasters. Thank you for watching, and if you want to check something different about the openings, you can take a look at this video. Bye bye.